Yeah, as far as those, my skills, they paid off in spades when I was going through cancer treatment. First of all, I was able to use perspective. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer 7 weeks after a clean mammogram, sparkly clean. I found a lump. It had already traveled to my lymph nodes. It was in a hurry trying to kill me, and I definitely thought I was dying.
When it comes to journeys, Fitz Koehler's is pretty hard to beat. From personal trainer to television celebrity, national race announcer, successful businesswoman, and of late an author. Throw cancer into the mix, and Fitz has had one heck of a story to share. Welcome to Insights into Success, where with your host Paul Dodds, we hope to educate, inspire, and motivate you to achieve your own personal success. We talk to guests from all around the world from a variety of walks of life to hear the realities of their own journey to success. What challenges have they faced? How have they coped with failure? And what have been the keys or will be the keys to their own success? In our Read to Succeed interviews, we talk books that have inspired our guests, and for some, they share their secrets to marketing success. Join us as we give you insights into success. So welcome to Insights into Success, where today a special guest is Fitz Koehler. Now, Fitz is a fitness expert, which kind of goes with the name, of course, and we can see the name of a business in the background there, FITZNESS, which I think is super cool, super catchy. She's also a keynote speaker, an author, and hopefully she's going to talk about her books later on, a race announcer, and actually quite a bit more, but I don't want to spoil it all at this stage. I want Fitz to tell us a little bit more about it. So firstly, Fitz, welcome to the show. Welcome, and thank you for joining me here in New Zealand, all that way over there in Florida, beautiful Florida. So thank you for agreeing to be on board. And I'd love it if you could start, just maybe elaborate a bit more on what exactly it is that you do, so the audience, if they haven't heard of you, can learn a bit more about what you do.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me on your show. I do wish we were sitting side by side in New Zealand. That would be a lot of fun for me. So maybe next time. Um,
Absolutely.
but I am bossy. I am noisy. I help people live better by making fitness understandable, attainable, and fun. And I don't do that like most fitness professionals in a gym or in a home. I do it almost exclusively via mass media and in front of massive audiences. So I make a living mostly on a microphone. I'm a very busy corporate speaker. I've worked for companies like Disney, Oakley, Office Depot, Tropicana. I'm sure some of those ring a bell.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I write books and write magazines. And while I think it's very noble to help one person at a time or 20, my craving is to reach as many people as humanly possible with every professional effort I make. So media has become my best friend, and I love doing that. I've been doing that for a very long time. I also professional race announcer. So some people don't even know what that is, but
Yeah.
I man the start and finish lines of many of the largest and most iconic running events in the United States. So Los Angeles Marathon, Buffalo Marathon, Detroit Free Press Marathon, dozens every year. And when athletes arrive, quite often tens of thousands of athletes arrive at a venue, I am there on a stage playing incredible music, welcoming people, getting them engaged, informed, entertained. I whip them into a frenzy, yo go, and the whoopee party goes by my start line. And then I meet them over at the finish line where I welcome almost every athlete in by name. Technology allows that. And I just like to help people do better and be better. Do better and be better. I've been in business for decades and I'm very proud of the brand I've built.
So how did this all come about? I mean, how did you get into the whole fitness industry, and why or how did you end up like you are really going to the masses? Because I mean, let's be honest, I mean, most people in your industry would start out at a local gym maybe,
Mhm.
and they'll end up with their clients and be one-on-one, and they might do that for 20, 30 years or whatever, and they always, take that approach. But you're taking a very different approach. So can you maybe give us a little bit of insight into how you came about to take that approach?
Yeah, so I started off teaching in a local gym like many people do. The job I had before I applied to teach fitness was a cinnamon bun maker at the mall. So I was
Right.
making 4,000 calorie cinnamon buns and I was eating the frosting in the back of the store. Thankfully, that manager was really mean. So I applied elsewhere and the place at the gym hired me. They hired me. It was a Tuesday. He said, well, can you teach a class on Friday? And I thought, I give it a go. And I gave it a go and it went really well. I continued teaching fitness from 15 on. And then when I went to college, things started to evolve. I was teaching at the University of Florida fitness centers, which were big and rowdy and fun. We had a great time, but I took a summer and I worked on a cruise ship, which sailed me from New York to France. We hit every country in Scandinavia, Russia,
Wow.
Estonia. It was a really wonderful experience. And I loved getting to meet people abroad. And then when I came back from the cruise ship, there was a TV producer casting for a fitness TV show. And so I auditioned. He chose me. And that's really where things went well. I learned that I was just as comfortable in front of a camera as I was in front of a live audience. And then
Right.
once the show started airing, people started coming out of the woodwork and saying, are you Fitz? Like strangers in the street. And I'd say, yeah, I love your show. I work out with you every day. And I've lost 17 pounds. And I would think, oh my gosh, I just was blown away by the fact that I was able to help strangers. Like,
Yeah.
what a miracle. And so TV was a big deal. And then I started competing as a full contact kickboxer. And I did
Oh,
that.
wow.
I know. I did
Wow.
that for almost 10 years. But at some point, I wrote my very first article for a major magazine, and it was called How to Kick People in the Head. And I taught people how to build the strength to get their leg up high, how to build the flexibility to get their leg up high, and then the strategy. It's not just about aiming for their head. It's about tricking them into leaning their head into your foot. And so I write this article, it gets published, and a few weeks later, a man across the country wrote me a handwritten letter, mailed it to my office and said, Fitz, I just wanted to thank you. I've been doing combat sports and martial arts for years. And thanks to your article, I finally kicked the first person in the head. And I was like, oh, I got to help someone kick someone else in the head. That's incredible. So between the TV experience and article writing, I found that was my passion. That teaching 50 people is nice, but teaching 5,000 or 5 million, if I'm on the morning news and I can reach 8 million people or however many people, that feels like a really productive day to me. So
Yeah.
mass impact is all I care about.
So you obviously need to be supremely confident to do that. Now, did you have that confidence in the beginning, or is it something just kind of evolved and it kind of scaled as you went on,
It did evolve and it did scale. And so, I was talented as a fitness instructor, but once I hit a certain point, I realized I was going to make a career out of it. Then I decided, the worst thing you want to do is hurt someone. So I need to know as much as humanly possible because most people do fitness as a job. And since we talk about success, I think that's a big difference. I was doing it as a job, but how did I turn it into a profession? And there's a very big difference in people who do things for jobs and people do things as a career. And so while I was trying to figure that out, I went back to the University of Florida and I earned a master's degree in exercise and sports sciences. And boy, did I learn a whole lot more about protecting the spinal column and your spinal cord and your heart and your lungs. And then, that's really how I started to build my business. But when it comes to scale, I work a lot on television and I work a lot in front of massive audiences. When I was 15, I had been volunteering to teach little fitness workshops to Girl Scouts. I would teach for free. I would go speak for tiny little weight loss groups. And so everything I've done has certainly has been cumulative. One thing
Yeah.
led to the next. You don't start off and instantly Disney says, hey, you come and preach to all of our cast members, our employees. We want you to talk to 5,000 people. That was earned after many decades of hard work.
So you said before about how you felt that you were talented as a fitness instructor. What makes a good fitness instructor?
Well, I think you need to know the knowledge about how the human body works and be a very good communicator. right? There's a purpose. Why are we doing this class? You got to know what your audience wants, and then you have to be able to design a class or a program that meets their needs. You have to be able to how do you get 50 people to move exactly when you say to move on the same beat, right? How are we going to get
Yeah.
everybody to understand how this works? Is you got to be able to be a good communicator. And then I think it certainly helps to be compassionate, empathetic, enthusiastic, encouraging. There's all these extras that I don't think anyone wants a vanilla fitness trainer that's just going to stand there and say, let's go to the left, let's lift your knees. So enthusiasm goes a long way. Knowledge and enthusiasm.
So in terms of enthusiasm, though, how do you keep it up? Because some days, surely you must have some days where you're feeling a bit flat and maybe you had a bad day or something like that.
Never once.
How do you do it? How do you keep the enthusiasm up?
Yeah, so I've thankfully, when it comes to my work, there's an on switch on my back. Someone goes, "Brrr," and instantly I get to be Fitz Koehler. When it comes to fitness and my work, I've never had an off day. And even when I was going through cancer and working through that, I never had an off day. And that's purely because I'm so freaking passionate about what I do. I love fitness. I truly believe in what I do. I believe that fitness has the power to change your life, not only your physical and mental health, but your professional success, your personal success. So I am thrilled to be able to do the thing I do. I love it when someone hires me. I just love the opportunity. So I think that goes a long way, is making sure whatever work you do is the thing that you would do for free.
Yeah.
If money were no object.
So, like, obviously, when you're up there doing your program, it involves some physical exertion. But for you and for those that are really passionate about it, do you actually feel relatively more exhausted when you finish, and in particular mentally exhausted because you're putting so much into it? Like it's more than just the exercise, it's just all the energy and the passion that goes into it. Does that take a toll on you?
So going back to when I used to teach group classes, it probably did. I probably had some great fatigue. I'm a mouthpiece now. I'm a figurehead. I stand on stages and I talk. I don't jump up and down with people
Right.
anymore for a living. So I'm far removed from that. A place where I do exert a lot of energy is at a finish line of a race. I'm
Right.
very high powered, high energy, highly engaged. I do spend a lot of time on my stage, but I get down and I run back and forth with many of the athletes, which they want me to do. Some of them, if I grab their hand 10 yards before the finish line and run them across the finish line, they'll say things like, my dream has come true. And I think, really? That's really nice. I just thought we were having a fun time. So it is important that I do that. Most race announcers don't do that stuff, but I'm highly engaged in that scenario. So it's demanding physically, but a lot of jobs are demanding physically, right? If you were, some people are doing back-breaking work, especially men. They're loading cinder blocks and building homes and plowing fields, and there's a lot of people working really, really hard physically. My job, I do it in a high energy way, but I certainly wouldn't complain that it's exhausting.
So you mentioned earlier about getting cancer.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just, if you don't mind, wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that too, and just kind of the lessons in that you've learned from it, and maybe, some of the skills and that you have developed from your career that have helped you, maybe have helped you with your career. So, I mean, and sorry, with your cancer battle, but so in particular, was there lessons and skills learned from your fitness career that you find have been applicable in other parts of your life? Not necessarily the cancer. We'll get onto that a little bit more in a moment, but can you talk me through your view on that?
Yeah, as far as those, my skills, they paid off in spades when I was going through cancer treatment. First of all, I was able to use perspective. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer 7 weeks after a clean mammogram, sparkly clean. I found a lump. It had already traveled to my lymph nodes. It was in a hurry trying to kill me, and I definitely thought I was dying.
7 weeks. That's crazy. So so you're confident that mammogram that was accurate. It's not a case that they missed it.
What's so great is when I went in for the second mammogram. So after, well, the one after I found the lump, I've seen the same radiologist for many years. And after she found the lump, she brought me into the scan and showed me. She said, "This is what we saw in December, 7 weeks prior." She said, "There's nothing there." She showed me that scan. And then other radiologists have gone back and they said, "Fitz, she didn't miss it. There was nothing there." And so I asked, how can that be? And it's a great lesson learned. I think everyone needs to keep in the back of their head. My friend, Dr. Wolkstein, she said, "Fitz, there is no rule that says when you walk out of your mammogram and sit down in your car, one cell doesn't go rogue and cancer begins." And so cancer can start at any time. Just because we do these annual exams doesn't mean it takes a whole year for cancer to develop. And again, I had a really aggressive form. So I definitely thought I was going to die. It was terrifying. And worse, I thought I'm not going to see my kids grow up. And that was, any parent will identify with that. But once my oncologist calmed me down, he said, "Fitz, your breast cancer is a very curable disease. You are very, very curable. You just are going to have to endure a cure. It's going to be a rough road." And it was. But I had choices. I always believe in control what you can and make those choices. So first of all, I chose to use perspective. Even though I was going through cancer, it would be horrible. I wasn't a kid with cancer. I mean, we see it all the time. Can you imagine being a kid with cancer? So I decided, well, I wasn't a kid with cancer. It wasn't my kid with cancer. And because of that, I was going to put on my big girl panties and just get through it, figure it out. I chose to pursue my passions. 2 things. Number one, I was going to be with my kids whenever they had a special event, a show, a ceremony, a sporting event. I was going to be there. I didn't know what I was in for, but I made that commitment. I also decided I was not going to miss out on this incredible career I created. I have earned my spot on many coveted stages at incredible events with extraordinary people. And come hell or high water, I was not going to miss out on those things. So, and I also chose to be positive because, we could always be grouchy, right? Complain about traffic or complain about weather, for crying out loud. And I just decided I'm going to make the best of a bad situation. And so that doesn't mean I didn't cry. I did a lot of crying. It was very stressful and scary, and it hurt. There was a lot of uncomfortable things with cancer, but I never missed a work event. I got on over 30 planes out of Gainesville during chemo. I had just over 15 months of chemotherapy, which is a very long time to have chemotherapy.
Yeah, that's huge.
It was huge. And I was gray. I was bald. I had no hair. I was skeletally skinny. But I would get on those planes and I was just hell bent on getting to my destination and doing the thing I wanted to do. And I had, because I was so sick, I was getting IV fluids every day of the week here in Gainesville. When I got on a plane and flew across the country, I'd end up in New York or California, my race directors would hook me up with medical professionals that would give me IV fluids before and after races. And this is the miracle. This is why choosing a career that you love so much is so important, because I would say I'd land in California and the travel day would be hard. I would sleep on the hotel bathroom floor because I was sick. When you get sick and you just rather stay there. And so I would sleep on the hotel bathroom floor feeling like death warmed over. And then my alarm would go off in the morning, 4:30 a.m. And I'd get up.
Oh, wow.
I'd get dressed and I'd drag myself over to a start line. But this is where the magic happened, is the second very sick, fatigued Fitz Koehler stepped onto those stages, everything that was wrong with me vanished. It was, wow. I got to be full force Fitz Koehler again for as long as I had athletes on the course. So start line all the way through, even if a full marathon day can take 9-10 hours. For 10 hours, I was a machine. I was running and big noise, big happy noise, celebrating everybody. You would have never known I was sick if you weren't looking at my bald head. And then, the last runner would come through and then my body would just go power down and I would be wiped out. But it was awesome. And if I had stayed home, all I would have been was sick. And so it's interesting, worldwide, there's a weird mentality like, oh, you're sick, you have a virus, hide out, cover your face, get under the bed. And instead, I was the most immune compromised person on planet Earth. My doctor said, we got to get you on your feet. And I just had more adventure than most healthy people have in a decade because of those passions.
So do you think, if you were facing the same circumstances,
Yeah.
but you didn't have the passion for something like you do, and maybe let's just say you didn't have a job or just were doing something you didn't particularly like or whatever, how different do you think the outcome might have been?
I think it would have been very different. It was like race announcing, teaching fitness, doing the things that I do. My kids, they fueled my soul. I did get so sick at one point where I understood why people stop treatment.
Right.
Sometimes you think like,
Wow.
why would they stop fighting? Why? Life is so good. But I was so beaten down. Every iota of my body had been shredded in some regard. And I thought, okay, if this was the best it would ever be, I would stop chemo. So I got there. But I also like what is life worth living unless you have these wonderful things to do? So yeah, I wouldn't have fared very well if, say, I did assembled widgets on an assembly line. I probably
Yeah.
would have called in sick and stayed home. I probably would have deteriorated mentally, and without that joy for me to look forward to, I don't know if I would have survived. It was that bad. It was that bad.
So I mean, obviously it's speculation, but how important do you think mental attitude is in terms of beating something like cancer? I mean, you've got having good medical treatment,
Right.
then mental attitude. Where do you think it sits relative to one another? Do you think the importance of mental attitude?
I've heard many oncologists say it does matter. It will enhance your survival rates if you are positive. And I don't know what the science is behind that, but I definitely believe. And it's not only surviving; it's quality of life, right? And so
Yeah.
um, I wrote my book. We'll mention that more later, but just briefly, my noisy cancer comeback. That's my memoir. Like that's the story of my adventures and my misadventures. But the two new books that are out in 23 are Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, Sick to Strong. And the reason I created that first book was because there wasn't anything else out there like that. And your personal behavior matters. It could get you to remission. Your exercise, your uh, nutrition, your sleep, your complementary care, that mental health can increase your chances of remission. It can decrease your chances of recurrence. And so they also say that people that are riddled with toxic feelings and don't take care of themselves, they are more likely to suffer, to be diagnosed with diseases, including cancer. So I truly believe that every ounce of control you have over yourself, you should take. So, Paul, I can't control you at all. There's nothing I can do to get you to lift your right arm up and down or whatever it is. I can't
Yeah.
control you. You're not a robot, but I can control me. And so, yeah, definitely mental health, attitude. And it's interesting, some people just they choose every day to be a lousy day, right? They get up, they get stuck in traffic. Not only are they poisoned by this catastrophe of being stuck in traffic, can you imagine what that must be like? For me, if I'm in a traffic jam, all I can think of how grateful I am not to be in the car that was in the accident that caused the traffic jam. But
Sure.
some people are just like, oh, my life is so inconvenienced by this. And then they go to work and they want to tell everybody else about their traffic jam and make sure everybody else is really upset by it as well. I think it's toxic. I think it's a spoiler. It ruins everything. And what I would encourage everybody is to be quicker to compliment, slow to complain, quicker to find the bright side. Before cancer, my mantra was, it's not cancer. So if it wasn't cancer, I wasn't going to get upset over it. And then when it was cancer, I decided, okay, I have to find another reason not to be upset.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm not a kid, and it's not my kid. So someone always has it worse.
So have you always been like that? Have you always seen the positive, or is that something that has evolved over the years for you?
So naturally a cheery person. My mom actually says that I was conceived at Disney World. So kind of creepy, kind of funny, but yeah, I definitely have a naturally cheery personality. But interestingly, growing up, I was taught to be kind of cranky. My mom demonstrated cranky behavior. My sister demonstrated cranky behavior. I used to take on some of those traits. And then when I moved away for college, I found that you catch more bees with honey. Like, I just thought, I will give people something to live up to. And then they did. So yeah, I have turned any crankiness that I was trained to utilize. I reject it completely. I can't find a good excuse to be miserable or difficult.
So do you have any strategies though? Like, do you have times? I mean, surely you must have times where you kind of catch yourself getting a bit grumpy. Do you have any strategies that you employ to help try and keep yourself positive all the time?
I do. So first of all, it's perspective. I just think about those things that are worse. I'm not a kid with cancer. Okay, it's not so bad. And then I think about control. Do I have control over this situation? What do they say? It's something, I think Alcoholics Anonymous has an old saying that's learning to control the things you can and ignore the things you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think that's just genius. Can you control this situation? If you can, all right, well, let's figure out a strategy to do the things we can to make it right. But if you don't have any control, I look at things going on in my country right now, Paul.
Yeah.
I could just watch the news and think of how this stuff not only is affecting Americans, freedom-loving Americans, but how it's probably going to screw over New Zealand at some point. America, our freedom matters. And when we lose it, you guys lose it. So I could sit around and suffer over that, or I could just choose to go vote every single time I get a chance. And I do.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. We won't get into politics, but I do follow American politics quite closely. So and you're right. The one thing I will say is what happens in America has a huge impact on the rest of the world, and if we don't acknowledge that, then we're being pretty naive. America is whether people like it or not, the leader of the free world. So we need them there, and we need them to continue to be a free democracy, and for democracy to work.
It's a great responsibility.
And to carry it out.
It's a tremendous responsibility, and I wish more Americans took it seriously.
Yeah. But we won't talk anymore about politics because that's a big hole to go down. But but it's right though. America, I mean, a lot of countries, a lot of people may say disparaging things about America and that, but the reality is that it is the biggest democratic country in the world. And for those that subscribe to democracy, we need them there as the shining light and to help carry the torch for all of us. So,
however, Paul, when it comes to control, when you watch the news, if my country's driving you and your country crazy, like, let it go, maybe turn off the TV, because that's how you can control your mood for the day. Going back to the main point is that you take on the things that you can control, speak up when you can, make your case, but don't let things you can't control eat you alive.
So let's take like social media and all that sort of stuff going on. So what would you subscribe? If things you're getting, say you're going through a bad patch and a lot of keep getting negative feedback for whatever form it is. Like I've had a situation a bit like that recently. So what I did is I actually went away and did, we call it the Milford Track, which is walking through bush for 4 days, and you're carrying a backpack and sleeping in huts. But what I did is I turned my phone. Well, when you're on the walk, you can't get reception anyway, which is great. But what I did is I decided that to turn my phone on airplane mode. And I got back on Saturday and refused to turn it on or take off airplane mode to Monday because I do not want to ruin my holiday. Whatever bad stuff that might be coming in, I'm going to take control of it, and I'm not going to deal with it or have it influence me until I get back from my holiday on the Monday.
Smart.
I mean, so that was kind of, I guess, my little bit of trying to take control of the situation. But what's your thoughts about stuff like that, especially with social media? And we're getting bombarded all the time. People expect to ring you and get a hold of you straight away. There's no more, oh, look, they're out of the office. They'll call when they get back.
Yeah.
People want instant answers. You've got, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the social media platforms out there giving feedback all the time. What's your thoughts on all that and in terms of people's mental well-being?
So I think you're right. I think social media has its opportunity to be wonderful and connect us like we are right now, and then terribly toxic. I keep my ringers off. My children can break through in an emergency, but my ringers are off almost all the time. I almost never let my phone ring, so I can deal with people and issues on my terms.
Yeah.
I think that's a very big deal. I don't allow social media to ding ding on my phone. I want to address it on my terms. I don't want that constant buzzing in the background and taking my attention. I don't want to do this all the time. So I control that because of my reach within fitness and running and other things. A lot of people message me, and how flattering for so many people to reach out for either advice or friendship. Sometimes I'll meet someone at a race, will say, hello, nice to meet you. And then they think every day they're going to send me these 400 word diatribes, right? They're just going to keep sending me all of their thoughts in their head. And I don't feel obligated to respond right away or at all. Maybe 2 weeks from now, I'll say, oh, hey, thanks for reaching out. Even if they've already sent me 40,000 words, I will wait my 2 weeks until I'm ready to reach out and connect with that person. I have children, I have dogs, I have a life, I've got must-dos. And just because somebody has made the time to reach out to me doesn't mean I have to make the instant time, drop everything. I do not text during dinner. If I'm at a restaurant with someone, they get my full attention. So I control what I can. Now, do I enjoy social media? I do. I mean, I definitely have some fun with it, and I like watching funny animal videos and, cute guys dancing. Now I get it. Like, men always like watching chicks dance. There's some guys dancing on social media. I'm like, okay, this is fun. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to be addicted. And then I fear for my children. They're teenagers. When I was a teenage idiot, were you an idiot when you were a teenager, Paul?
I think everyone is to varying degrees. It's
Yeah.
just to what extreme. I wasn't at the extreme level, but there's definitely, I had elements of it.
Yeah, I was a dummy. I did so many stupid things. I said so many stupid things. I wore hideous things, but almost none of it is documented, right? So you can't go back and look at me being a buffoon. I think of my children, I tell them, every stupid move you make is being recorded right now. This will make you unemployable at some point, or they're going to cancel you. I don't like cancel culture at all. I definitely believe in people evolving and learning and growing and saying, whoops, sorry, and being better. But
being human.
Yeah, being human, right? So you got to control. If you're going to be a buffoon, you got to make sure there's no cameras in the room.
So like today, it seems to be anxiety is just almost like exploding. So many people are suffering from anxiety, and you look at social media and then it's kind of understandable. But to what extent, I mean, there's obviously a number of things you can do to counter it, but to what extent do you feel that fitness can play a part in people's mental well-being?
Absolutely massive. There's not much that compares with physical relief to vent out those toxic feelings, whether you choose to walk or run or cycle, swim, hit a heavy bag, exerting that toxic energy. It's very, very powerful. I can't quote specific studies right now, but I have read. And any doctor, any psychiatrist, the very first thing they would tell someone dealing with anxiety issues is go exercise.
Yeah. I mean, the thing for me with exercise is it's an opportunity to shut everything down and just exercise.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it's like you get a moment of peace where nothing else is going on. The only thing you should be thinking about is what you're doing. So nothing else matters at the time, and just the satisfaction of doing whatever you're doing and completing it.
Yeah, those are great points. Yeah. So I've used exercise not only for fun, for fitness. when 9/11, when those planes started crashing into the Twin Towers, I went straight to the gym to hit the heavy bag. It was a need for me when I was diagnosed with cancer. So the cancer didn't make me sick. It gave me a lump, right? I detected I had cancer, but my body wasn't riddled with it and I wasn't
Right.
sick because of it. So between diagnosis and my first chemo, I was exercising hours every day just to get rid of the stress. So it's one of those things. If you're irritated with your spouse, walk out the door and go for a walk. See if you come back a
Yeah.
nicer person. I think most people do relax a little bit after they've exerted that pent up energy. And exercise is also a fantastic place to think. And there's been studies done with CEOs. Most CEOs start their days with exercise, and most do most of their business planning during exercise. So it can be a really productive multitasking part of your day. You're making your body stronger, fitter, maybe losing weight if that's your goal, and you're coming up with some brilliant ideas or managing crisis while exercising.
Yeah. Now you were involved or are involved in a school program called the Morning Mile. Do you want to share
Yes.
with us a little bit about that and how that came about and what the purpose of it is?
I would love to. Thank you. So I own the Morning Mile. It's my before school walking running program. It's a FITZNESS production. And when my kids were little, 4 and 6, my daughter, who was 6 at the time, she had a friend who he was walking and running before school, and his mom kept bragging about it. And I kept saying, gosh, I wish my kids could do that. I wish my kids could do that. And she kept bragging. And I'd think, oh, I wish Ginger and Parker could do that. And then my fitness expert light bulb went off, and I thought, I wish all kids could do that. That's a brilliant way to start the day with an active friend, diminish our ever increasing numbers of childhood obesity cases, turn on their brains, curb behavior problems because the kids have exerted their youthful energy. So I went to the schools who had loosely organized walking running programs. I said, what's working for you? And they shared. And so I took their best practices and I included my own, and I created the only school running program, walking running program that's completely inclusive. Everybody's welcome. Every student, all faculty, student families, the bus drivers, the lunch lady, everyone's welcome to come participate. The schools provide 30 minutes in the morning before school. The kids can show up and walk one lap, go to class. They can stay for the whole 30 minutes, run real fast. We have elementary school kids that run upwards of 4 miles in 30 minutes almost
Wow.
every day before school. We don't set an arbitrary goal like do a marathon 26.2. We say, just go, have fun, do what you want. We unleash them. We play music. We give great rewards. Some of my Morning Mile schools yield 27,000 miles per year.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, some of them have over 90% of the student body participate throughout the year. It's incredible.
So
So
for
I have,
you,
oh,
sorry, I was going to say for you, is this just a community contribution you're
nope.
doing it, or is it actually a business?
It's part of my business. And it's so lovely. I love it when a part of my business is so wonderful that people confuse it with charity work,
Cool.
right? Like how great is your business when people go, how altruistic. So it is.
Yeah.
I'm getting kids moving in the mornings and their family because it's good for them and it's good for society. And that's my whole mission. But the program is paid for. It's sponsored by corporations. And
Yeah.
there's some profit built in because I have children I need to feed and I don't feel bad
Yeah.
about that. So the Morning Mile, I have it in 4 different countries. It's in over 400 schools right now. And, my first goal is to have it in every school in America before I die. But I certainly would love to get those Kiwi kids up and running
Yeah.
too. So I'm so proud of the Morning Mile. It's the best, most important thing I've ever done. So if anyone wants to learn about that, they can visit morningmile.com.
That sounds like an awesome idea.
Yeah, thank
So,
you.
so tell me, like looking back now with your cancer journey, how has it changed you? I mean, I assume it has, maybe it hasn't, but if it has changed you, how do you think it's changed you and how do you reflect back on that journey?
So there's a couple things. You know how sometimes people hit crisis, tragedy, illness, injury, and they hit a fork in the road and they think, oh, what have I been doing? I need to do this instead. They make a turn. For me, when cancer came, and because the way it played out, I didn't take any turns. Instead, cancer just solidified the foundation I had already laid, that I was doing the right thing with the right people. I need to double down and do more of this. If I had taken a break from all the things I do for a year and a half while I was very, very sick, nobody would have blamed me, but I would have blamed me, and my business, my brand would be devastated. I think it would have fizzled out. I think the people that normally hire me to speak, they would have forgotten about me. They would have found someone else. They would have kept that other person. So instead of FITZNESS dying, I tripled my business.
Wow.
During cancer.
Wow.
I think those are good decisions making. Hey, listen, I'll never say I'm the prettiest girl or the funniest person or the wealthiest or any of those things. But when it all lays out, I made some really good decisions, and that's good news for everybody, because I didn't make any decisions that only a really rich person can make, or only a really nationally diverse or interesting person can make. Anyone can make these decisions. Use perspective, follow your passions, stay positive. Remember, you can do hard things. These are all very basic tools we all have if we choose to use them. So on the other side, I was gung-ho on life before cancer. Now there's a problem. Like, now I'm hardcore. I want everything. I want to do everything. There's very little fear in my heart, other than to things like flying cockroaches, spiders. I am not afraid of anything, because I always compare it to cancer, and I'm like, well, I can do that. That's not cancer. So life is better. Cancer has left me dinged up. There's dings, and there's lasting dings, for a lack of a better word. But
yeah,
I feel really good about the success I've had. I ran the Boston Marathon a little over a year after finishing chemo, which I'm very proud of. I have these 3 books, the Cancer Comeback series, which I'm so excited about. The first one was tremendously successful. My Noisy Cancer Comeback. The next 2, Your Healthy Cancer Comeback and the Journal. There are no other tools like them for cancer patients. There's nothing. And so when your body is deteriorating, and you're looking in the mirror thinking, I'm a shell of what I used to be, there is no information. There was, until now, there was no information to help people climb their way out of those holes and become whole again. So unthankfully, whatever, cancer is not an American disease. It's an everywhere disease.
International.
It is. And everybody is affected, even if you don't have it yourself. Either you're hoping you don't get it, or you're losing people you love, or watching them suffer. And so my next main obstacle, which is one I'll gladly take on, is making sure every cancer patient and survivor on Earth know that these resources exist, because they will help. They will definitely help these people. I'm so excited.
So tell me about your book. So the first book, was that just sort of recounting your journey through cancer?
Yeah. So the first book is my Noisy Cancer Comeback, and it's, the tale of my adventures and misadventures traveling America with cancer. And I go into all the gory details, all the hardships, all that, telling my kids, being diagnosed, what all that was like, because there's a lot of stuff people don't talk about. Yeah. And I talked about all of it. There's a lot of things. My eyes changed color.
Really?
Yeah.
How was that?
I know. They were gray. They were silver eyes. Now they're very blue eyes, which is not like a terrible thing to happen. But
no.
Can you imagine waking up one morning? They weren't royal blue at that day. They were navy blue saucers. And I thought, what's going on?
How does that work? How
does that work? I still don't know. I don't know, but it's very weird.
Yeah.
So I go into all the weird and wacky, and it's funny. People say that it made them cry some, but it made them laugh a whole heck of a lot more. And especially when cancer patients are reading it, that fills my heart up with happiness.
So when you wrote that book, did you write it or take notes at the time, or did you write it retrospectively? You reflected back and recounted it in the book.
So, when I think I was maybe just a few months into treatment. And again, it was a very long treatment, maybe a few months in, where after things had gone sideways, were so wacky, my first instinct was, gosh, people would get a laugh about this. So I told people I had cancer because I was going to be bald. I never wore a wig. So I didn't want people, I would have liked to keep it private, but I did have to tell everybody because I was showing up bald. But I never told anybody about the hardships at the time. You know how a lot of people are on social media being like, look, I fell down. Everybody look at the picture of my bloody knee. I stayed the course on my brand. I was health. I was happiness. I pretended everything was just fine. Nobody knew I was super sick other than my very close circle. So as I was going through it though, and things were going crazy, and I was, at some point you just have to laugh at yourself. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, people would laugh. I got to tell this story one day. And I didn't know if I was just going to tell it on my own podcast or write an article. And then what happened is, as things were going on, I started thinking, you know what? This is another place where I can help people do better and be better. It was that perspective, passion, positivity. And I thought this is something I need to tell people about. So that's when I started making notes about experiences I'd like to talk about. Now the book it's chronological order. And I kept it that way because with cancer, people want to know, like, well, when was your clean mammogram? When did you find your lump? When did you get the biopsy? Like when?
Sure.
And so I made it chronological. But those dates were in my calendar. So when I talk about losing half of my hair on stage at the Los Angeles Marathon, it was easy for me to look up the date because the Los Angeles Marathon date is published everywhere. So I did start taking notes. I never had a diary, but when something funny or exaggerated happened and I thought it would be interesting to share, I jotted it down and included it in the book.
So was writing the book difficult or therapeutic?
No, it was, I don't know if it was therapeutic. It just, I only speak when I have something to say. And I had something to say. I think I really enjoy, I'm a storyteller, so when I do keynotes, I don't just say, XYZs of fitness nuts and bolts. I build it into real life experiences. So I enjoy the process. I enjoy creating. I enjoy writing.
And so the two new books, can you just tell me a little bit about them and how they differ from one another and the purposes of both of them?
Yeah. So the first book is Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, Sick to Strong. And that one is a guidebook. It's the blueprint for a cancer patient and survivor to slow the decline and rebuild their body as necessary. And it's very detailed, although very easy to read. It's layman's term. It's friendly, conversational. And we talk about how fitness will help you slow the decline. Because when chemo starts beating you up, if you don't fight back, you'll just get weaker, tighter, stiffer, lose your balance. With dehydration, a lot of people become a fall risk. I was. And so you can combat that decline by moving when you can. And I'm not telling people, hey, go out there and do CrossFit right now. What I'm saying is, what can you do? Can you go for a walk? A lot of cancer patients are able to be active in many ways or even athletic. And so let's talk about the things you can do and do those things. This is how you treat exercise when starting chemo, as you go through it with radiation, with surgeries. There's a massive section in the middle. It's, I think, chapter 7 called Everything Exercise. And there's hundreds of photos with instructions. So let's say you're not a fitness expert and maybe you want to work on your shoulders, right? You've had some reason that your shoulders are now weak. Well, there's exercises. There's all the gym exercises, standing stuff. But if you can't stand, here's exercises you can do sitting down in a chair. If you can't sit up, here's exercises, strength and stretching exercises you can do lying down in bed. If you're sick and you're going to be like, I had to take showers all the time because I was exploding. I was so sick. So I was constantly in the shower and I would do stretches in the shower. So there's things that you can do. And, the main impetus for this book was when I hit rock bottom. And so I lost 11% of my weight. I was so skinny. I was very, very thin. I was very weak. I couldn't open water bottles, just everything. And it was past the meanest part of my chemo and past surgery. And so I decided to go back into the gym. I had been doing stuff at home as I could, but I was going to the gym and I was going to strength train on this day. And so I went in there and I sat down on a machine and I tried to do chest press, which with the same weight I used to use before cancer. And I had to lower it and lower it and lower it. And eventually what turned out is I could only lift 20% of what I had lifted before. I was lifting maybe what a 4-year-old might lift. And I realized two things is how fortunate I am to be a fitness expert, right? Because when that happened, when I had a scrawny, gray, bald, weak body, I knew exactly how to design my return to health and fitness. I was on a mission and I was going to make it happen. It was going to be baby steps and gradual, and I was going to do this and that, but I was going to make it happen and go even beyond. And I did. But that same day and that same moment, I thought, oh my gosh, what if I didn't have all this information in my head? What if I was just sick and just weak? And I was stuck staring at myself in the mirror thinking, what has happened to me? And I'll never be the same. That would have been very, very defeating. That was a very clear moment that I had to use my highly credentialed fitness expertise along with my cancer street cred to help other people going through it. And you know what, Paul, there's nothing else on the market like it. There is no competition for that book. So that one it's filled with everything. We talk nutrition, we talk quality sleep and the benefits of that, complementary care, mental health counseling, sexual health counseling, physiotherapy, massage therapy, acupuncture, all of it. And it's a guidebook for somebody who needs that type of guidance for fitness during and after cancer care. Now, the next book is the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. So that's the place where everyone can document all of their cancer details, their diagnosis, their data diagnosis, who their doctors are, where they get treated, its scans, blah, blah, blah. But then also, who's their favorite shoulder to cry on? Who brings the best home-cooked meals? What is your nickname for your tumor? Have you given a nickname for your port? What are the things that keep you going? And then the last 100 pages are daily fitness logs. And so it's when do you wake up, when you go to sleep, did you take a nap? How much water did you drink? What kind of exercise did you do? How did you feel? And then do you know what strawberry moments are?
No idea.
Okay. So I love strawberry moments, and they're semi-widely known, but I've learned of them when my kids went to summer camp. They went to summer camp out in the woods, slept in cabins for weeks. And strawberry moments were the things that when at the end of the day, the kids in that cabin would circle up and they would talk about their favorite part of the day, something that made them feel happy or special, whether they won a canoe race or they made a new friend or they learned a new song. It's your silver lining of the day. And I think with cancer, or I know that with cancer, it's really important to focus on those special things because they're going to pop up. Even though you're sick, even though you just had surgery and you're in the hospital and you look weird, something wonderful happened on that day. And so that journal is the opportunity for people to log their details and then hopefully focus and then share their stress. They can vent in their journal, but also focus on the good parts of life.
So, I mean, so effectively, I guess they go hand in hand. So you read the one book and then you've really got the guide to help you through.
Yeah.
So is there a plan to kind of link that up with social media and kind of like create a little community of people going through that journey?
Absolutely. So, as far as we're talking to entrepreneurs, I'm using the back of the book very wisely. And so in the back of this book, there's a little promo in here for, well, there's FITZNESS.com, come to my website. And then there's another one that says, up next, your healthy cancer comeback. The back of these two new books will steer people towards my website. I'm featuring inspirational healthy cancer comeback stories on FITZNESS.com. So yeah, you've known that Fitz Koehler, a fitness expert, told me all of this stuff. But if you'd like to see proof that it's possible, we're going to have tons of articles. We have many already written, ready to release on social media. So people can drive there to see Phil Decker running Chicago and Boston Marathon with stage 4 colon cancer, to see Kathy Barrett's come back from breast cancer, to see Kelly Ryan adventuring all the time with brain cancer. And so I'm really excited about bringing cancer patients and survivors with the can-do attitude together to feed off of each other's success, and then welcome in, others who didn't know it was possible, right? You think, oh, cancer, life's over, or life's going to be bad. And, for those of us who survive cancer, life can be really good.
Yeah, I think that is such a super cool idea. I really, really love it because I can only imagine people feeling, very isolated and going through such uncertainty. So to know that there's a resource out there where they can go to and share their journey, but have shared within other people's journeys and how they've managed to combat it through all these strategies. I think it's a really fantastic idea, and would be an exciting project to be part of, I'm sure, because you've got an opportunity to really help people in an extremely meaningful way.
Well, thank you, Paul. And people ask, like, do you have down days? And in real life, perhaps. But when it comes to my work, I am so intrinsically motivated because I love and I truly believe in what I do. And like I said, my greatest challenge now will be making sure every cancer patient, every survivor knows these resources exist. And if one of them has to go through cancer care and they didn't hear about your healthy cancer comeback, I'll feel like a big jerk. Go up and down.
There's the pressure. So I guess just to wrap this up, based on your life experiences, what would be the tips that you would give to people to help them on their life journey and how they can achieve their goals in life, whatever they might be? What would be some things that might spring to mind for you?
First of all, don't settle. Don't take a job with Uncle Joe just because it's easy. Pursue the things you love and you're passionate about, the things where you have some sort of skill set. Make a list. Make a list of things you love to do, things that you don't love to do. Avoid doing things on your on your hate list, and then try to build a career out of things you love to do. If you love cats and you love surfing, then you could be the first guy with a surf with your cat class, and you probably will do really well. So be creative. That's one of the greatest benefits of being in the free world, is we get to make those choices. So I think, first of all, you just got to do what you love, and hopefully your skill set matches those things. Learn to negotiate. That was a really hard one for me. I didn't know what to charge at first. I'm sure I undersold myself for a very, very long time. And then I started learning the skills of doing business and learning to put a value on what I do. And I think everybody is better off when you can figure that out. So learn to negotiate, don't be afraid to put a value on what you do. And, and just in general, show up early, be the last to leave, help whenever you can, stick your hand out, introduce yourself, write thank you letters when you meet someone special or influential in your career, and not an email. Write an actual thank you letter or a nice to meet you letter by pen. I think that's a really strong way to get people's attention, and be nice, be ethical, be honest. People won't want to work with you if they think you're a liar or if they think you're a jerk. And so put your best foot forward, and all of a sudden things will become a lot easier.
Well, that's all great advice. And I think one thing I want to leave you with, though, Fitz, is talking to you. You're not on your own in what you do. Obviously, you've got your own way of doing things, but you've got a prominent profile. One of the things you always wonder when you talk to people like yourself is that you might deliver a lot of great content, but you wonder about what the sincerity is behind it, or whether it's just all facade, very slick, professional, but not that sincere. The thing I will say with you is that I get a strong sense of sincerity with what you're saying, which I really like. You could say the same things and I could come away thinking, yeah, that's really slick, but I don't think she's actually that sincere about it. It's just all the business operation, and it's all a front. But with you, I do actually genuinely feel that it's sincere and that is truly who you are. So that makes me admire what you're doing even more. So thank you so much for sharing your time. I mean, your time's precious, and you've managed to dedicate some time to talk to me. So I really appreciate it. And for those listening or watching, you've agreed to stay on, and we're going to do another quick interview called Read to Succeed in a moment. So thank you for this interview, and I look forward to talking to you again shortly for Read to Succeed.
Thanks, Paul.